Okay, so today we're going to do a little bit more in our work that we've been doing with the Versamagic chalk inks. So I've already done several demonstrations with these and I just want to do another couple. The two cards I'm going to do are quite different, but it's just showcasing some more of the things that the inks can do as well as some more of what our stamps can do. So this first one I'm going to be following an aqua theme, and we're going to do some multi-layer stamping with one of the Altenew sets. Now this one's Garden Treasure. We're going to be then doing some multi-layer stenciling, and I'll use a Beati stencil for that, the swirl, and I'll add in a little bit of our sketch swirl stamp as well. Then, for a change of pace, back to our pears that we've used before, just because it's a big enough size that it shows off some of the effects that we can get with the chalk inks really well. And I'm going to use the texture stripes to create both a wallpaper look and a gingham look. So we'll work with those again with the chalk ink pads and also our little cherries stamp we might add in with that one as well. So Versamagics, I've got some aquas for our first one, and then I've got some browns and reds and greens for the second one that we're creating. So let's start having a play. So with our I've already loaded up the solid one of our first bigger flower with the Altenew. So what I'm wanting to show here is how that even if we had just two colours, so let's take out the lighter colour for the moment, even just two colours with our chalk inks, how we can create a 4-layered effect. So if I just ink up this solid stamp, so this is using Turquoise Gem, and I'm going to go for a reasonably solid coverage of ink here. Okay, we're going to stamp that in the centre of our card. Push down nice and evenly, lift straight up. So that's given us a pretty good image there in the middle. Just give it a clean before I take it off. And now I'm going to use the same colour with the next layer. And because of the nature of the chalk inks, it will come out deeper looking. So we'll grab that same colour, so Turquoise Gem, ink up nice and thoroughly. Now we do have our gorgeous grandson Grayson with us today, playing on the floor with some toys, and I can see he's trying to reach over to grab something at the moment. So we may get a few little odd noises and bits happening. And Gramps may have to go to the rescue a couple of times. But we're going to just keep playing here. So we'll line that one up, stamp it down, and you'll see we've got the two shades of colour. Even though it's the same colour, it gives us two shades. And that's the nature of this being a pigment ink, that we can do that. Then we'll switch to the next layer and a darker ink. Now because I do want we could do the same with this if we had two more solid stamps, but because I'm going to do the outline with this as well, we're going to ink this one. You're not going to see this same effect with the next one. Pop that in there. So that gives us our next depth, and then we'll use that same colour to give us our outline. So we still get our stages of depth, even though we're only working with two colours, instead of you would normally work with 4 colours to get this layered image happening. So let's ink up that one. You'll notice it's a soft, squishy ink pad, this one. I don't get the ink pad and press it onto the stamp, nor do I get the stamp and press it onto the ink pad. I just tap across so that we get a good inking, but without getting ink smeared all over the backing area. So we're not wasting any of our ink. Now let's pop that around our petals. Line ourselves up. And stamp. Okay, and there we've got a multi-layered flower done with just 2 colours. Now to build out our picture, we're going to add some extra fronds in there with the same darker colour. And I've got a mask that I've already made of that flower that I'll just pop over the top. So this has just been stamped on a post-it note and cut out. So that means that I can now overlap my next image without it actually going over the top of the image that we've just stamped. So let's grab the little frondy flowers, ink those up. And we're going to bring those out either side of our flower. The Versamagic chalks do give really good outline images as well as stamping solid stamps really well. So when I take my mask away, we'll see that those are just tucked in underneath there really nicely. Okay. Now we're going to do the stenciling around it. So I'm going to use the same colours, but I'm going to start with the softer one. A lot of the Versamagic inks come in almost like sets of 3. So here we've got Sea Breeze, then Turquoise Gem, and then the Ocean Depths. So that gives us 3 shades in the aqua tones. So we're going to start with Sea Breeze, the lighter one. I grab Sea Breeze. I should have grabbed Aquatic Splash. Anyway, we're going to keep going. Aquatic Splash is a bit more turquoisey than this one, but this will still work. So let's just lay our stencil on, and I'm going to bring it in quite close to our stamped image. And using a number 8 size brush, I'll just circle over that. I do often like to still start on my stencil or start near the edge of the card and then shade in. And I need to be careful where there's some bits of the stencil where there's ends like that bit there. I don't want to come back towards that and risk peeling it up. So I'll do my stenciling going in the direction that the bits of the stencil go. Let's get some more down the bottom there. Lift our stencil off and we can see our lovely pattern that we're creating. Now I'm just going to continue those swirls coming down the card. So what we're doing is we're actually going to be using one stencil but building up a multi-layered background. Now I'm just looking at which part of the stencil is going to work well. With that bit there. I'm not wanting to use the same part of the stencil all the time. I want to move it around so I'm using different bits. And I'm looking at what's going to look like it's all one pattern. I don't want to look like I've got bits of stencil. I want the pattern to join up. We've still got funny little noises happening in the background. Now I might turn the stencil that way and bring in a few of those fronds there. So I'm wanting to come in with the lighter colour, I'm wanting to come in close to our stamped image but not overlap it at all. So I'm actually going to just stop at that bit so that I can bring a little bit more in up closer to it. There we go. That's going to work. Pick up some of those really cute dots on it. Okay, oh, I've got a spot there. Well, I'll pick that up with the next colour. So what I'm going to do is now use the same stencil but with a darker colour. So now we move into our turquoise gem. And this time will be a little bit further out from And we can use the same pattern and just offset it a bit, or we can use different parts of the stencil. So let's try doing a little bit of both. So now we're going to be more to the outer part of the card, so we get this double layer with our pattern. And a little munchkin who so wants to be mobile, he's so close to crawling and desperate to start doing something, getting into things, but of course gets frustrated because he's not quite there. So now he's helping Grampy with the camera work. So you can see we've got the softer waves coming in and then the stronger ones at the edge. Let's do some of these bits along here. And then we'll echo this as we brush on a little bit of background colour with our inks as well. Now I really want to fill in that spot there. And you can see the really nice soft look you get with the chalk inks. Do a nice big curl up in that corner. But I still need to fill in something there, so we'll do some little swirls there. Maybe that side. You can just move your stencil around until you find the bits that you're happy with. That's going to fill those spots in. Just need a little bit more down the bottom here. Let's have a little curl there. So now I'm just going to pick out, see if there's any little gaps that need filling in, and just add little edges of a curl. Need something down there. And maybe something in there. Okay, I'm now just going to give my brush a bit of a brush off and go back to our softer colour. Perfect. Clean that on my apron. Okay, we're going to get the soft one. Yes. Okay, so now I'm going to just do some circles. And smudge in, because it's a soft colour, I'm bringing it almost into our stamped image. Starting off on the outer edge though, so that I've got a bit more control over the colour. And then bringing it in. Hello Grace, it is fun, isn't it? And we've got the dog here as well, so she's just given a big shake and wandered around. So it's a whole family affair today. Now switch to our next colour and we'll circle this on as well, but now I'm not going to come in as far. Now I'll stick more to the outer edge. So with both our stenciling and our shading, we're adding depth to our card. So the centre will be more highlighted and then it goes to deeper on the outside, and this actually brings our flower out as the focal point. I know, we're just hilarious today, aren't we, Grayson? Now, I'll just switch to our Ocean Depths, our deeper colour, and we're going to just pick up some of that and just smudge this right around the outer edge. So I'm not doing circles so that I don't get too much spread of colour, and you'll notice there's a lot more going onto the backing card now because I'm aiming to just pick up the outer edge of the card. Little smudgy sounds as I smoosh that on. Okay. Now I would then, as a finished card, probably make a backing card with some of those same colours, and I would probably add some little bits of glitter or glossy accents, particularly around the flower centres there. I'll see how we're going for time. We might come back and add a bit more to that one. But what I wanted to show was this layering of colour and layering of the stencils to get depth of colour with only using a small palette of colours. Okay, so let's switch to our next bit of card and have a look at our gingham effect. Now I'm just looking for a acrylic box. So I'm going to use the stripe stamp, texture stripes, and a pear stamp, which I'm going to ask Matthew to freeze the camera for a moment while I grab the pear stamp. Okay, for our second card, we're going to use the pear stamps, and this is because the solid part of the pear image is so good for showing different effects, and I'm going to use the texture stripes. So what we do is ink up our pear with our green ink. It's lovely to have help. So I'm using tea leaves, and I want a good coverage of the ink so that we can really see the effect that we're going to create with the stripy stamp. So just making sure I'm getting good coverage there. Now I get the stripes, and I'm going, now this is the lift off technique that we've done before with the sketch swirl stamp, but this time I'm actually going to go in one direction and a ever so slight twist, just a really tiny twist, and lift off, and you'll see we've created a stripy look there. I'll give that stamp a quick wipe on me, of course, and now I'm going to turn the stripes around and do the same thing in the other direction, and this will actually create a gingham look, which you'll see as we stamp this down on our bit of paper. Let's turn that stamp around so you can see the image really well. And in fact, I'm going to cut this one out so I can use this half my piece of paper. So press down nice and firmly, and lift up, and we've got a gingham pear. Isn't that cute? Oh, I just love it. I just think that's gorgeous. Okay, clean those stamps off, and then we're going to pop an outline around that one, and then we'll create our wallpaper background. So let's just change our pears over. So take off the solid one, pop on the outline, and now we'll switch to a deeper green. So I'm going to change to, what have I got here? Hint of Pesto. Just tap across my stamp. And then we're going to line it up over our ginghamed one. And stamp. Remember, most of these are made with a very sketchy look, so it doesn't matter if you don't line up exactly. That's pretty cute, isn't it? And then we're very quickly going to make our background, and then we can cut this one out. So our background, I think I'll do with, what are we going to do? There's different ways that you can do the stripy look. I'm just going to show you one just on the back of this card, and then we'll tip it over. If we just wanted to do a border with the stripes, or a ginghamy border, you could actually just tear a bit of paper towel or a normal bit of paper, mask off your corner, and so that gingham effect works when you're doing your stamping as well as for lifting off. So if we ink up our stamp, stamp it one way, and then stamp the other way, we'll also get that gingham effect. So we can create a little ginghamy background if we want to. Or if we want to create, in fact, I'm going to keep going with that. Let's do the top half like that as well. Oh, sorry, the top half, the other corner. But this way I've got making a little bit of a challenge for myself to make sure I line everything up. And I wasn't really watching that I was getting things straight before. We'll have a look. We'll have a look and see whether we go with it or not. Now let's pop some upright ones in. So we've created ourselves a little gingham top to the card. The other way that we can do our stamping with this stamp to create a wallpapery look is just to use it just with the stripes. So this time I'm going to use the other side of my paper towel which is a straight edge, or I would use just a straight edged bit of paper. Lay our stripes down. Now I'm just watching with the edge of the card and the edge of a stripe to make sure that I'm fairly up and down. And then we'll just ink again and fill in the last bit of the card. Okay, I'm not happy, I'm a little bit off there. And as I want this to be a feature, I am going to flip the card over. But you can see the difference with just using it as a stripe compared with using it as the gingham. So let's just do, what do we want for our wallpaper? Should we go a ginghamy look for the whole wallpaper? Let's do that. Oh, Grayson, you're not helping, darling. Poor Matthew's trying so hard to do camera work with these beautiful close-ups while holding a very wriggly grandson. Okay. So stamp it on. And again, I'm just looking for the edge of the card. See how much I can get it straight up and down. This would actually be a little bit easier if I popped it onto a different colour background so that my backing card was standing out a bit more from the, what am I trying to say, Matthew? From the scrap paper. Okay, now let's ink up our stamp again and go the other way. So that's given our stamp stripes that way. Now we want our stripes going this way. So this time I'm lining up with the bottom edge of the card. Guess who's learnt to growl in the recent weeks? And thinks it's very, very funny. We're very funny when we growl. Okay, so now we've created a ginghamy look along the bottom of our card. And then if I had thought to grab a piece of the stamp set I've got from Darkroom Door, which has ribbons, I could just stamp a ribbon across there. The other way that I can create a ribbon is just with my ink pad, which was I using Sahara Sand. Although what have we done? Oh, now let's do a bit of green. I'm going to create a bit of green, and I'm just going to get 2 edges of paper. Oh dear. We're going to get 2 edges of paper, pop them down to make a little gap there. And I'm just going to wipe my ink pad across and create a little strip of colour. Okay, so that's going to give us a little ribbon across there. Now we're going to use our little Cherries stamp. Oh yes, little man. I'm going to use our Cherries stamp, and I'm going to be a little bit sneaky and ink it up on 2 ink pads. Now I work a lot with the larger size ink pad. You can get these ink pads as dewdrops, and when you're doing this sort of stuff where you're inking up a stamp with 2 colours, it actually is easier with the dewdrops. But of course, the colours that I want to use are the ones I've got on the big pads. So I'm just inking up the leaves, and then I'm inking up the cherry part on the red. And then we're going to I can have a look and see that I've got enough coverage from the red. And then we're going to stamp some little cherries. And it's going to mean inking up each time again. But it's so cute, it's worth being a little bit fiddly. And we're going to make a real 1950s style wallpaper. Now we have got a couple of designs from my sister, who has done all our designs of our ladies. We've got a couple of 1950s looking ladies, and I'm actually itching to try this technique to make really lovely cherry patterns to go behind our 1950s ladies. However, I've got to actually find some time to do some stamp designs to actually get our 1950s ladies into production. Now I've got a little bit of red coming on, a little bit too much red coming onto my green leaves, so I'll just stamp it off on my scrap and then keep going. So I'm offsetting them this time. So we've got a line of 3, we'll have a line of 3 going up that way. That's very cute, isn't it? How's it going, Grayson? Now I'll have the pear in the middle there, so I probably don't need to put one right in there. We'll put one up there. Just give ourselves a little bit of a clean because I'm starting to get a bit too much contamination happening with the colours. Start again. Bit of red, bit of green, bit of red. We could also do inking of a stamp like this. We could do it with using markers, but I particularly wanted this, that would give a lot bolder colour, whereas I really wanted the soft colour of the chalks. And another one up there. And sorry, Matthew and Grayson, we're going to need another row of cherries, so you just got to hang in there a little bit longer with us. And one more. Okay, so there's our little wallpaper look. Now I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors and we're going to trim out this pear so we can layer it over the top. And I'm going to do it quickly because we don't want to take too long over our card today. I'm actually going to leave a little bit of a border around it, which means my cutting out is a bit quicker. So we're just trimming around there. This way I haven't got to worry about which of the sketchy lines to follow too. Trim that bit off. Okay, and our pear will layer over like that. Now I do think I want to stamp in, and I'll do this and show you a finished one later. I just want to stamp or draw a little bit of an edge in on that top of our wallpaper look. And I think we do need some green edging around the whole card. So I'll go back to our hint of pesto colour and let's tie the whole thing in together by our edging. This is the same colour that we used to stamp the outline of the pear, so it should help everything all meld in together. Okay, and so that's our cute little gingham card. Now the other thing that I was going to do back to our first card was just a little bit of the sketch swirl stamp that I forgot to do in this one with the Ocean Depths ink, which will create some more depth around the outer edge. So let's just ink up our sketch swirl stamp and pop that in as well. But it's got to be right to the outer edges so we don't lose the beautiful stenciled effect. We really want it to add to the pattern that we've created, not take away from it at all. But I'm changing the angle of the stamp as I go around so we get different parts of the swirls coming out. Beautiful. Yes, it is beautiful. Okay, so there's our, let's move this out of the way so we can see our cards a bit better. There's our 2 cards for today. So our lovely layers there, using just a limited array of colours. And then we've got our gorgeous gingham look. And as I said, I'll finish off both these. We'll add some stickles into that one, some glitter, and we'll add in a ribbon across the back of that to give more of a definite border there. And then I'll take some photos of those and put them up on our page for you to have a look at. Okay, thank you very much for being with me today. Thanks, Michelle from P2P Presents, for giving us a chance to bring this in. And let's have a little smile from Grayson, who's probably just going to want to grab all the stamps and the cards. But let's have a little we're going to look at the camera. There we go. Look at Gramps over there at the camera. So here's our little helper that we've had today. Here we go. Have a brush rather than the stamps. Oh, now we're going to get into it. Who's going to be the next little stamper? Yay! Okay, thanks for being with us today, and we'll see you again soon before someone tries to eat a brush.